Here's my older Acer Inspire 7th gen Core i7 processor laptop. It's part of the Spin 3 series and it served me very, very well with multiple different operating systems installed. It came pre-installed with Windows 10 and I was perfectly happy with that for a time. But it's time to say goodbye to that. I've had Ubuntu on this laptop, I've had Fedora on this laptop, I've even tried Garuda Linux on this laptop. And after recently changing back to Windows, even for just a day or two, I just couldn't handle it any longer. I am no longer a Windows guy. I just can't even fake it anymore. So here we have the latest version of Manjaro, 21.16 is the latest version that we have installed there. And we'll get that in place and do our first boot. I think the BIOS is already set to boot from USB, so we shouldn't have any difficulties there. And if you're complaining about the dirt on the screen, well, I guess maybe don't worry. Hey, that was as easy as it could possibly be, right? So we can boot with open source drivers or we can boot with proprietary drivers. In my mind, I don't see a problem with this for right now. The open source purists, I realize, are going to be upset at me, but for my part, I like having my computers run very well. And sometimes that means that we make those compromises, right? That we get proprietary drivers in order to get some of the CPU or GPU or other custom hardware profiles on computers to run their very best. So that's a compromise that for me I'm willing to make. Tell me in the description of this video, what would you do? Would you stick with just the open source drivers or would you go with the proprietary drivers? What's your preference? I'd love to hear from you in the comment section about what you do and why. Here we go. All right, that was about as fast as it could possibly be. Love that new GNOME 40 dock down below. And I mean, we can't, there we go. The gestures are already fully enabled. So I went ahead and 3-finger swiped up and it did exactly what you'd expect a 3-finger swipe to do in modern computing, right? Touchpad or trackpad gestures have become such an important part of using computers nowadays. Well, let's take a look at this. Thank you for joining our community. We, the Manjaro developers, hope that you will enjoy using Manjaro as much as we enjoy building it. The links below will help you get started with your new operating system, so enjoy the experience and don't hesitate to send us your feedback. Well, that was a nice little note, wasn't it? I'm a first-time user of Manjaro. I've used Garuda Linux, which was my first exposure to any Arch-based distros, and I liked it so much that I realized I need to stay within the Arch ecosystem, but I want something that's a little bit more lean and a little more no-nonsense for my laptop. Garuda is fun and almost, it's almost like it's a walking meme of an operating system, and that's fine for my workstation / gaming rig because, I mean, it's very overbuilt hardware for day-to-day usage, right? You don't need a top-tier graphics card or whatever, a 16-core processor to be able to open up a web browser and check your email and chat with people on a regular day-to-day basis. And I don't need that on the road either. So when I'm traveling, I want something more secure but with more flexibility in package management. So an Arch-based distro makes sense for me. All right, let's move past this. Launch it, start. No, I don't think we really need that. Apparently what we're doing right now is we're running live. So we would need to go to this link or this icon that says install Manjaro Linux. And surprise, surprise, it jumps straight into the install process. Now, this system has both a little hard drive bay as well as a, oh my gosh. Wait a second. I have to be logged in, but I know that I have full battery. Yeah, 94% battery. Apparently, this is a problem. Not connected to the internet. We'll figure that out as we go. Let's see if we can just... Okay, first off, we don't have tap to click enabled either. Let's go to a time zone that's a little more comfortable for us. And default... Oh, did I skip one? Okay. What we're going to do is, erase the disk and then just put Manjaro in this. It's just a ½ terabyte NVMe drive, which I think will suit our purposes just fine. And let's see, ext4, I'm not super happy with that. What I would prefer to do is, do we have a BetterFS option? Yep, we've got a BetterFS option. Love that. I'm going to go with BetterFS. I've had a phenomenal experience with it so far. And no swap. Let's see. No hibernate. With hibernate. There we go. So we'll go ahead and add a swap file with Hibernate as an option because we want to be able to just close the lid after this is installed and have that really smooth experience of having the system hibernate and then come back from hibernation with our full save state, right? So everything that we were working on before. Okay. Mind your biz, because you know how we do. And we're gonna call this guy MYB Manjaro. Cool. And let's just tilt this up so we're not so, y'all are not so much in my business as far as what I'm typing on the screen. So I'll remove my fingers from the equation. There's no reason to have a light password. If you can remember it, then that's good. Use same password for the administrator account. Not going to log in automatically, so I'm going to force each session to be logged in. I just feel like that's a more secure way to go. And let's move on. The partitions are in place. Everything else is in place. Should be able to install at this point. Okay. Will not be able to undo these changes. Yep, no problem. Goodbye, Windows. Again, we just need to get rid of that Windows life. And while that's installing, let's go over a couple of reasons why you might want to try Manjaro Linux. Number one, you might want Linux on a piece of hardware like how I'm doing right now, just a laptop that's a little bit lighter spec, right? Doesn't have the latest and greatest GPU, doesn't have the heaviest hitting CPU, doesn't have gobs of RAM. Is just a little bit older, but gets the job done, right? What we used to consider an ultrabook, right? 8 or 12 or 16 gigs of RAM. Something that's a little bit more for day-to-day use or when you're traveling, and this fits the bill for me. If that's the case for you, I think that Windows, it's a hard sell, right? When you have only 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, or when you have 16 gigs of RAM. There are, I realize you can make Windows more lean. I realize you can make Windows more hardened and security focused, but Linux fits so many of those needs right out of the box. The fact that I was even able to change the file system the way you saw me change it from ext4, if you're not familiar with Linux, but change it from ext4 to btrfs or betterfs, is something that's just not available within Windows. And frankly, it's not available for macOS either. You can't just choose to say, like, you know what, I like this other file system better because a third-party developer in the open source community said, hey, I saw an opportunity here, and so I radically redesigned the way computer file systems work, and this could be better, right? Because it gets updated snapshots and it lets you be more secure with your operating system while making sure that you get those time-stamped snapshots of stable install points, right? Of stable operating states for your computer. So you can roll back to a more secure state. Maybe your computer gets compromised. You can't just roll back with any old operating system file system. And with Linux, you can change your file system. Like that. First off, that's possible. So the flexibility on under-provisioned hardware, on light-duty hardware like this. When it comes to ultrabooks or when it comes to iPads or tablets or whatever else, I mean, I don't want to do all my work on an iPad. I'm sorry, I just don't. Like, iOS is not a full operating system. The fact that the newer M1 or Apple Silicon computers, the fact that they support apps from iPad and iOS is cool and all, but that doesn't make those devices full desktop computers. If anything, the other way around, like we don't need to compromise, right? All that stuff can run here. And then same with Linux. We can run any kind of an emulator for Android here very easily. All right, that was pretty easy, right? Painless. I was not even through a short list of reasons why you might want to try Linux, but my top reason is for a laptop like this, it's got very light hardware and I bring it on the road with me. I wanted to extend its battery life. That's why I used Linux back in the day too on old used computers that I was using as a student. It just made my life simpler. So let's go ahead and hit done. It's going to restart for us in just a couple of minutes. We got the entire install done. And There we go. Let's go ahead and remove our install media, and that way it's not, we know we're not running a live distro, but we got that Acer splash screen there. Let's see what it does next. Fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed. Don't do anything weird. Okay, cool. Nothing weird happened. We successfully see our Manjaro splash screen here. And it looks like, yep, that's us. That's the new user account. And I apologize, got all the card games out there. Okay, and voila. We are in. But this first boot, pretty awesome. Now we can tell it, we don't necessarily need to do this. Let's see if there's any other, no, there are no links to applications here per se. Oh, that's weird. It's weird that it went full screen there. Okay, so we see all of our applications. We can definitely show applications this way as well. You're probably used to seeing this from within the Unity desktop on Ubuntu if you've tried that. Very similar layout, very similar icon pack. But I'm going to three finger swipe up on my trackpad, 3-finger swipe down. And those gestures are so much easier to do. 3-finger swipe also reveals my desktops. So if I wanted to switch to a different desktop, I could do that. 4-finger swipe, let's see, or 3-finger sideways swipe, so lateral swipe, changes the desktops by just moving left to right with 3 fingers. This is the kind of, I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a very big productivity boost for people who are using laptops. And sure, it was available in Windows, but then I was paranoid about, like, can I set up my security settings enough? Can I prevent people from, like, dropping off a rubber ducky at a trade show? I work in a field where I'm going to marketing shows and stuff and other trade shows, worried about, like, okay, if I just grab something from someone and plug it into a computer, what's it going to do? And how hard is it to ratchet down those security settings on Windows? The bottom line is it takes a lot longer in Windows than it does here. So happy with the install, easy so far. I'll let you know how it goes after the first couple of days of using Manjaro Linux with GNOME 40 desktop environment.